Hey everybody. Okay, I'm recording from home so that y'all can have this lesson. So we're going to start our class off. We're going to open up in prayer and then we'll get going. I'll meet you on page 36 in your book. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning and ask that you'll be with these kids while I'm not there, that they can gain the information that you would have them gain in my absence. Lord, be with them and guide them safely home. Father, I pray that you be with my family as we go to the beach, that we have a safe trip there, that we enjoy ourselves, that we can give you the glory for that, for your provision, and that you got us safely home so that we can be back with these kids next week. All these things I ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, here we go. Page 36. I got my book over here. I got a kid over here on the couch. He hurt his foot, so I'm making him out sit. I'm that mama. All my kids are outside playing, and he's in here watching Tom and Jerry or something like that. What are you watching, Will?
Woody the Woodpecker.
Woody the Woodpecker. Okay, here we go. Page 36. Look around the room. Now, I have that room memorized, I think. So, look around the room. What are the walls made of? What's the ceiling made of? What is the floor? What's on the floor? What's underneath that carpet? What is the framework for that room? Well, it all kind of looks the same. I mean, it's cinder block and some concrete stuff. Underneath that carpet, there's a layer of old tile and an old shuffleboard, believe it or not. So it's really kind of cool. I mean, how all those things together form our classroom. And that's all you're used to seeing is the classroom. So, but that's the things that the structure, the framework to the building is all those cinder blocks. There's steel beams in there. So everything is kind of set up like a framework. Now, tissue is the building blocks, the framework for our bodies. So the tissue is what holds everything together. Now, there are 4 different kinds of tissues for your body, and you do need to know these. That's on the test. I think my tests are over there somewhere, so I may have to go over and get one here in a minute just to make sure we cover everything. There's 4 different types of tissue. The first is epithelial tissue. That's in the last paragraph. I don't need to spell that for you. That's in the last paragraph of page 36. There's connective tissue, nervous tissue, and muscle tissue. So we're going to start off by talking about epithelial tissue. So imagine, I'm going to put this right here. I like to look at it from a distance. Imagine a tile floor on page 37, second sentence. Imagine a tile floor made up of tiles that stick to a wooden floor below it. In our case, it would be like concrete and then a layer of tile. And then on top of that tile is carpet. That carpet. So it's concrete, tile, and carpet. And all you see is the carpet. But you know that those layers are under there giving it a good foundation. There's also a layer of glue that holds the carpet down, right? Okay. When we're looking at epithelial tissue, we have to look at the fact that it's stacked up in layers. On page 37, figure 2.1, you're going to see an example of that, okay? What you're going to see is a free surface. The free surface is the part that you see on your skin. It's right here. That's what you see of my skin, but my skin goes much deeper into areas you can't see. The carpet, all you see is the carpet. You don't see the concrete up underneath it or the glue or any of that, okay? Then you see the basal surface. The basal surface is really just the bottom of the free surface. I'm reading this as I go along. It is, so the free surface is the top. The basal surface is the bottom of the top, all right? Let's see, then we have a basement membrane. The basement membrane is like the glue. So if you can imagine, you've got the top of the carpet, that's the kind of fuzzy stuff that we see. The bottom of the carpet, which is the basal surface, which if you've ever looked at the bottom of a carpet, it's kind of like plasticky looking. So that's kind of what the basal surface would be like. Then the basement surface is the glue that holds it onto the underlying tissue or the concrete or tile or whatever's under there. Okay, so what you're looking at here in figure 2.1 is a simple squamous epithelium. Simple means one, okay? When you're talking about science, it means one. Simple means one. Squamous. The word squamous means squatty. So I'm kind of squamous because I'm squatty, because I'm short, okay? So that's kind of what it means. It means short and squatty. And then epithelium, remember we talked about the other day, epi means top, thelium means layered. So a simple squamous epithelium is one squatty layer that's on the top, okay? So what you're looking at in this picture is a drawn picture on the left, and then on the right you're going to see a picture of a microscope slide. This is what the cells look like that are found in the lungs. The dark purple spots are the nucleus. The free surface is, you can see it right there, the lighter pink color. These are found in the lungs, these kind of simple squamous epithelia, and they're good for diffusion. Now, lungs are a good place to have diffusion because whatever we breathe in is what your body absorbs into the bloodstream. So this kind of epithelial tissue allows that diffusion to happen. Okay, it's a good thing. Two factors that determine are the distance between the free and basal surface. And I cannot read my own writing. How bad is that? I wrote this a long time ago. The height and the number of layers. So when you're looking at all these different cells that we're going to be looking at today, these kinds of tissues, you're going to be able to tell what kind of tissue it is by the structure. This one's short and squatty, single layer. And you're going to be able to look at some other ones here I'm going to show you in just a second. You should be able to look at it and tell what kind it is. Okay, it's important to know that the basement membrane, the glue part, is avascular. A means without, vascular means vessels. So that means there's no blood supply to it, okay? There's no vessels that bring blood to it. So avascular means lacking blood cells or lacking blood vessels. Since the basement membrane is avascular, there's no blood vessels in the basement membrane or in the epithelial tissue. Now, how does the epithelial cells get the things that they need from the blood if there's no blood getting to it? Well, the tissue to which the basement membrane is attached has blood cells. So the tissue on the bottom part has blood cells. So what happens is diffusion, which we learned in Biology 1. We learned about diffusion. What happens is those nutrients just kind of suck through those cells to the other cells. So the epithelial cells will draw out the nutrients that are flowing through the blood that's in the basement layer. Pretty cool. Or below the basement layer, the tissues. Okay. Let's see. Page 38. Epithelial cells often die at a rapid rate. They do. They get gone. Mitosis. Now, do y'all remember what mitosis was from biology? Mitosis is asexual reproduction in eukaryotic cells that are exact copies. Remember, when something is asexually reproduced, it's the exact copy of its the one that it came off of, its mama cell. So remember that the cells that it makes are exact replicas. Everything is the same. There's no mutations there. So that is how it gets replaced. So it grows through mitosis. It's the ability to repair itself through mitosis And it's a very important characteristic of these epithelial linings. So what happens is the layer that's on top, right up underneath it, it keeps pushing up and pushing up cells. The top layer will slough off, and the new layers keep building up from below. Now, something that's really interesting is when those layers produce too fast, sometimes it'll make a knot under, I'm going to use his skin as an example. Sometimes it'll make a knot underneath that layer, and it can turn into cancerous cells once they reproduce so much that they don't slough off. Even in the lungs, when you cough, you're coughing up those cells. So when you cough that up, it creates new cells to come forward. But if you have an overproduction of that mitosis, happens too fast, then sometimes that cell does mutate and it turns into cancer, which is very unfortunate. Second paragraph, we can classify all epithelial. We can classify it by the number of layers, by the shapes. If it's one layer, it's called simple. If it's several layers, it's called stratified. The word stratified means layers. I don't know if y'all are, any of you are familiar with guitars, but there is a Fender guitar. It's an electric guitar, and it's called a Fender Stratocaster, okay? So the word itself means layered sound casting. So it casts out layers of sound. I think that's pretty cool. Fender Stratocaster. So if the cells are kind of flat and short and squatty, those are called squamous cells. If they look like a cube, they're called cuboidal cells. If they look like long columns, they're called columnar cells. So the actual cell itself looks like what it's called, which is kind of cool. The only one that kind of throws you off is squamous, but remember, squamous means squatty, squatty, okay? So let's see, the cells of the lungs, like I told you a second ago, that diffuse really well. That's a basic function, is squamous, simple squamous epithelial. Now, I think I already said that. Oh, so here's a question. Are simple squamous epithelial used for complex tasks? Anybody? No, it only does diffusion. So it does its job, but that's not really that complex of a task when it comes to cellular structures. So let's skip over to page 39 and let's look at our next example. Our next example is simple cuboidal epithelium. Once again, it has one layer, simple, but look at these cells. They look like cubes, don't they? They don't look short and squatty. They look like cubes. Because of its size of the nucleus, it can do more. The nucleus is big, so that means it has a bigger control center to tell the cell what to do. So it has a little bit more responsibilities in its job. So it diffuses, it also absorbs and secretes. So you've got your free surface, that's the top layer that you would see. It has a big old nucleus there. It has that basal surface, remember the very bottom of the cell. It has a basement membrane just like the other one. The only difference here is that it has a bigger nucleus, it has a bigger cells on the top that are shaped like cubes. But you find these typically in saliva glands and in your kidneys. So on the test, it'll say list the kinds of cells, the kinds of epithelial tissue, and then they'll say, give me an example of it. And this is what it is, okay? So simple cuboidal cells are in saliva glands and kidneys. They absorb and secrete. So your saliva glands are your spit glands, Okay, they absorb stuff from your mouth, and it also is a gland that secretes. What does it secrete? Spit. That's right. And there's all kinds of enzymes and proteins that are inside that spit that helps break down your food. Good to have. We'll talk about that with the digestive system. As a result, the function of the simple cuboidal epithelial is not only for diffusion, but for absorption and secretion. You can more easily distinguish them in a photograph. Now, you can see the picture here on the left that's drawn. Let's look at the microscopic image on the right. You can see by looking at it that they're bigger. They look like little squares. They don't just look flat and one-dimensional. That's pretty cool. Next, simple columnar epithelial. This one is so cool. It's got some of my very favorite things in it. So I wish I had my board behind me. Actually, I bought a board from Walmart and it won't be here tomorrow. And I got packing to do, and my big kids aren't going to be home to help, so I got to do this all by myself. Big families. Anyway, okay. Simple columnar epithelial. So, simple means 20 layers? No, it means one layer. Columnar, are they shaped like circles? No. Are they shaped like triangles? No. Like hearts? No. They're shaped like columns. And I love that because it tells me what it is, and I know English pretty good. So that means columnar, long, skinny. Let's take a look at it. Your free surface, just the same. Epithelial cell, look at the cells. They're long and skinny. Guess what? One nucleus, still just one nucleus. The basal surface is the very bottom of the actual cell. The basement membrane, the basement membrane, the glue. The underlying tissue that it's all stuck to through the basement membrane, that's there. But look what this is. A goblet cell. Hold that thought. Stay with me for just a second. I have an idea. Oh man, I threw it away. Crapola. Okay. I threw it away. Okay. We're going to pretend that this is a goblet. I used to have these really pretty like Christmas goblets, they had handles and stuff on. I think I just got tired of all the stuff in my cabinets, and one day I'm pretty sure I just threw it all away. I knew this day would come. I should have kept it. I might turn into a hoarder and be on TV one day. Okay, so let's pretend this is a goblet. What is a goblet? Yeah, it's that thing Harry Potter was all into where he put his name in, but he didn't really put his name in. Somebody else put his name in. But anyway, a goblet is a big cup. So these are called goblet cells. They're like cups, y'all. Look here. Imagine I'm holding it. I'm so afraid I'm going to drop it and it's going to shatter all over my kitchen. So let's just imagine that inside of these cells, there are these other little cells called goblet cells, and they hold something. What do you reckon that goblet holds? You're going to like it. Mucus. It holds the mucus. This is a snot cup. I love it. These cells have snot cups in them. Well, why in the world do we need snot cups? Snot cups. I just realized I'm not wearing lipstick. How do people live without lipstick? Anyway, so, and now I'm totally distracted. I can't think about nothing but my mouth. Okay, so there is mucus all in those goblet cells. I love it. Why? These simple columnar epithelium are located in your gut. They're in your stomach and your intestines. Why, oh why do you need snot in your intestines? Well, in your stomach, those goblet cells release all this mucus to protect the lining of your stomach. What else do you have in your stomach? Acid. So if you've got all that acid inside of your stomach, and then you need something to protect that lining so it squirts out a bunch of snot. Oh, how exciting. So then, gets even better. As your intestines also have these goblet cells, the intestines squirt out mucus too. What does that do? It helps your poop go. So as you poop, that's why it's gooey and gross, because you got all this snot pushing it, helping it glide through so that you can poop. It is handy dandy. Let's see. And as people get older, my nose is starting to run. Hey, Willie,
Yeah.
would you go get me a Kleenex or some tissue or something?
Yeah.
Thanks. Mucus. So, he disappeared. Okay, so these these can perform more complex secretion and absorption tasks. Okay, so it can absorb all this water, and you need water to poop too, y'all. You gotta have the water. So thank you, baby. Oh, my nose is dripping with mucus. Those old cells in there. Whoop whoop. Okay. So more complex secretions and absorption tasks. It absorbs water. It holds on to that water and it secretes the mucus. Now, if you ever have a stuffy nose and nothing is running, one of the things your doctor is going to tell you is to drink more water. Because when you drink more water, it liquefies the mucus. And as it liquefies the mucus, it helps get the snot out. Same thing in the gut. You got to have all kinds of water or you're going to have some hard poop. Ain't nobody like that. Or do you? I mean, ugh, gross. Okay. Simple columnar. Columns have goblet cells that create snot. Where do you need snot? You need snot in your stomach. And you need snot in your bowels. Get it out. Okay. Page 40. Hi, baby. Oh,
It's
okay.
lightweight.
Thank you. I know what it is. Thank you. I got a package. I'm special. Every time somebody, the mailman brings me something, I feel like I'm getting a present, even if it isn't for me. I feel all special. My FedEx guy's name's Deontay. I got a different UPS guy. My mailman's name is Paul. I know them all because they bring me stuff. They like me. Because I pay them to. But really. Okay. Now, page 40. Notice also that there is a new type of cell in this tissue. These are called goblet cells. I done told you about the goblet cells. We done talked about the mucus. You know, you kind of have to say it like that when you say mucus, because otherwise it's just mucus. But it should be mucus. It should have an attitude. Oh, y'all. I'm so ready for a break. I'm telling you what. Okay, now let's see. Now at the bottom of page 40, you're going to see coloring book page that you need to do 2.1. It says you're going to go to your coloring book page 23, but we know that it's really page 25 in your book, and that is in your assignments on iGrade. All you got to do is look at it and see which one it is. Also, do those on your own. Go ahead and do those now. Let's do number 1 together, 2.1. A simple epithelial tissue sample has cells that produce mucus. What kind of simple epithelial tissue is it? Anyone? Did somebody say columnar? You are correct. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, so now we're looking at stratified epithelial tissues. They are different. Why? Do they have a simple? No, they are multiple layered. Stratified means layered. It means more than one, okay? All right. Stratified squamous epithelial on page 41. On the top, you've still got your free surface. But look on top of that, keratinized cells. We're going to talk about that in a second. Then we have your squamous epithelial cells. They're squatty. Keep on going down. You've got your basal surface, you've got your basement membrane, you've got your underlying tissue. All of that looks the same, except there are squamous and looks to me like there's some cuboidal down there. Y'all see that? Y'all see this? An example of this is your skin. Man, your skin's got some really cool layers. Let's look at them, okay? At the very top, we have what's called keratinized cells. I'm looking for the word. Okay. Oh, I'll tell you about that in a second. I'm going out of order, getting flustered. Okay. Notice that this tissue has several layers of cells. That's why it's called stratified, multiple layers. Notice also that the cells closest to the free surface are squamous cells. The deeper cells are cuboidal, but the tissue is named for the cells at the free surface. So the tissue is named for the cells that are what are closest to what you can see, okay? Notice that the basement membrane here is not flat. Let's look at it. Look at the little microscope thing. The basement membrane is where the pink meets the white, or the fuchsia, or whatever color, purple. I don't know. I do like that color though. It's where it meets the white. Well, that part is all funkified. Why? Well, because let's say that I want to pass nutrients. Remember, right up underneath there, under that basement membrane is where the blood comes from, okay? So let's say I have, I'm trying to grab this. Let's say I have this, and I have my straight line. I have approximately 13 inches worth of surface area right here on this edge. Now, what if I had that same, let me see if I can grab it. Okay, I have that same 13 inches. This is my cord to my computer. Okay, but I did it like this. I can't hold it, y'all. I can't do this. What was I thinking? I was getting a little too creative here. Okay, see all that? That's a lot of surface area, right? I can still cram it into that 13-inch space. But look here, if I straighten it out, look how much I done used. That is a lot of space. By making something wiggly, like this, it expands my surface area. So, if you are wanting to get a Twizzler, I like Twizzlers. If you're wanting to get Twizzlers, don't anybody ever buy me Twizzlers. It just, inevitably, when I tell people I like something, that's what I get. I got one kid that I mentioned how I'm like obsessed with Twinkies, and he, even though last year he stopped coming to our co-op because he went to public school, he still sent through his mother me a box of Twinkies. I can't eat Twinkies as much as I love them. When I eat them, well, one, I get big as a house, but two, I swell up because I'm allergic to some of the stuff in them, but I'll eat it. If you give it to me, I'll eat it. So let's not do that. But I love me some Twizzlers. Let's not do that either. Twizzlers. But what about the bendy Twizzlers? You know, the ones that twist around? The ones you get at Halloween and stuff? The ones that you can pull them apart? They're bigger. We've got this whole solid piece, and if I'm going to get me a Twizzler, I'm going to get the one that's all wound up because I get that much more candy, right? This is kind of how this is. This basement membrane looks like this because all those wiggles and turns gives us more access to the blood supply. So, blah, 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 blah. Okay. On the second full paragraph on page, like mid-page of Module 2, where do you find this kind of stratified squamous epithelium? You find it in your skin. You find it on the top layer of skin, which is your epidermis. Epi means top. Dermis means skin, the top of your skin. So epidermis, that's where you're going to find these kinds of cells. It's the top part of your skin. What is the function of the skin? This is on your test, straight up, okay? Write this down. The function of this tissue is to form a barrier. The function of this tissue is to form a barrier. It also absorbs. You ever sat in a tub for a long time? I try my best to do that every day. It allows me to watch what I want to watch on TV without kids bopping in, and it gets me away from people for about an hour, and it makes me smell good. I like to smell good. I smell good right now. I smell myself. In the tub, you're going to soak up some water, but do you soak it up like a sponge? Do you come out there looking like SpongeBob after he's been blown up? No, you don't. That's because your skin forms a barrier. It's a semi-waterproof barrier, but if you stay there long enough, you get all pruny, okay? Because you do absorb some water in those exterior cells. Last paragraph here, I'm just going to read the thing. Have you ever wondered how skin is made? Jesus did it. The basal cells in skin are divided by the process of mitosis. And this division takes place, the cells get pushed upward. Remember I told you? As a result, the newer cells tend to stay near the bottom of the epithelial tissue, and the older cells get pushed upward and eventually are lost as they flake off. These dead cells, they are not seals. They're cells. I just can't read. These dead cells contain a waterproofing protein called keratin. So skin is keratinized, so it kind of makes you a little bit waterproof. That's why when you get in the pool, you don't soak up everything like a big sponge. Are y'all okay?
What?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Do what you gotta do to get back outside.
Okay.
Now, page 42. Why are the surface cells of the skin dead? Well, remember the basement membrane is avascular, no blood supply. The nutrients and oxygen that keeps the cells alive must diffuse through the basement membrane and up into the cells of the epithelium. In a stratified epithelium, the upper cells are often too far away to get enough oxygen and nutrients, so they die. This is not always the case in a stratified squamous epithelium, however. Although skin is an example of stratified squamous epithelium, there are other stratified squamous epithelium tissues whose surface cells are alive. They're alive. Let's see. This is moist stratified squamous epithelium. Now, I think on the test I say something like, give me, where do you find moist stratified squamous epithelium? And they're also non-keratinized. It's not waterproof if it's moist, right? Don't you hate that word, moist? It's moist. It just sounds gross. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Think about a tissue that is always wet. It's in your mouth, okay? Your mouth is wet. So guess where the moist mouth, stratified squamous epithelium is? It's in your mouth, okay? In your mouth. It's interesting. I think that's really cool. But moist mouth moist. Remember that because it's on your test. So another interesting type of stratified epithelium is stratified transitional epithelium. Now, this is really cool. So when I am going to ask you on the test, what is unique about transitional epithelium, the stratified epithelial, transitional epithelium? The word transitional is going to be your hook here. Okay, transition means that it goes across something, like it transitions, it changes from one thing to the next. Okay, so what's cool about this, the transitional, is that it stretches. Now, think of a part of your body that stretches when it needs to. Anybody got any ideas? I wish I could hear what you're saying, because I'm sure you're not right. I'm sure you're totally wrong, unless you're right. Okay, it's your bladder. Praise the Lord that our bladder stretches. Otherwise, can you imagine how, oh my goodness, I'm getting ready to go on a road trip with a bunch of children. And you'd think their bladders don't stretch because we have to stop every 25 minutes. Or you get older and your bladder stretches out too far and it just lets go of itself. Not that that happens to me. But I've been a nurse for a long time. It happens. Would you shut that stinking door? I love my kids. They're so good. Anyway, so transitional stretches. Where do you find it? In your bladder. Now, little known fact. It's a big known fact because it's in the book. Okay. When your bladder is empty, it's relatively the size of your thumb. Holy cannoli. I got something else to show you. This is my favorite measuring cup. It's a Pioneer Woman measuring cup. If you could see my kitchen, you could see I kind of like Pioneer Woman stuff.
Yeah.
I got all kinds of stuff. Even my salt shakers and all this stuff back here, they're all Pioneer Woman. Would you get out of this house? They make me crazy. Okay. So, that's what we need. We need masks made out of this stuff because then we'd be loud, right? Can you hear how much louder I am? Okay, anyway, I get carried away. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so your bladder is about the size of your thumb when it's empty. See? About that big. Put on something dark. About that big. Okay, but when it's full, about that big. This is about 500 cc's. It can hold up to, this is 2 cups. It can hold about 2 cups. 250 to 500 cc. Well, we don't even say cc's anymore, milliliters. About 2 cups. Your bladder will hold about 2 cups pee. Now I'm telling you what, after you've been sitting in a car for a long time, or you've been sitting there watching a movie, you feel like your bladder is full of way more than 2 cups. But when you think about this versus this, that tissue has to go somewhere and do something. What are you doing?
I'm going to eat. I'm hungry.
He's hungry. So anyway, this size to this size, that's crazy. The only tissue that can do that is stratified transitional epithelium, and it is only found in your bladder because the unique thing about it is that it stretches. I just think that's amazing. Okay, let's see. Blah, 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 250, 500 ml. Ooh, the next kind is pseudo-stratified epithelium. Okay, we didn't go over this word. Maybe we did. What does pseudo mean? P-S-E-U-D-O. What does pseudo mean? It means fake, okay? So pseudo-stratified, stratified means layers. Somebody say layers. Say layers.
Well,
He's got banana in his mouth. Layer. So this has fake layers. Let's look at it. It is the pseudostratified epithelium here. And let's see, it is found in the airways of the lungs. It has little hairs on it. Look at the top of it. It's got some hairs. Those are called cilia. Let's see. It has a free surface. You can see the top of it. It has goblet cells. It creates mucus. They're in your nose too. The goblet cells contains the mucus. The pseudostratified epithelium means that it's fake layers, even though it looks like it's fake, like it's layered. It's really not. They're kind of just folded together in a really weird package. On the very bottom, you've got the basal cell layer, which is actually the bottom of the actual cell tissue. You've got the basement layer, which is the glue. And then you've got the tissue. So the basement layer is the glue that holds this pseudostratified epithelium to the cells. Pretty cool. Look at this picture over here. And if you look really closely, you can see all the little hairs on it. Pretty cool stuff, man. Okay. On page 43, you'll also notice that you'll see coloring book exercise 2.2. It says go to page 25, but we know in real life that's page 27, all right? Because our book is off. Now, pseudostratified has goblet cells and cilia, it's hair. We're now on page 44. Now we're going to talk about glandular epithelium. We're going to talk about what's in the glands. Okay, now before I get into that, I want to talk to you about this lab. Okay, you'll see on page 44, 45, probably 46. Through 47. Wow, this is a big one. You'll notice that it's talking about the lung, the stomach, and the skin. Now, we already talked about those things. Those are the different kinds of epithelial cells. So what it's showing you is simple, cuboidal, and columnar. And so it's showing you that, would you give me a drink, please? It's showing you those three different kinds in real life. Now, in this class, I want you to get to see what they look like. However, there is so much material. Oh, that's weird. Look at it. It's all, can you see that?
I know.
That's crazy. So it's still like that. Oh, it didn't fizz. I bet it's lost its fizz. It has, but I'll still drink it. I like my fizzy drinks. Okay. So what you're going to notice here is we're not going to actually use the microscopes for these. This class has a lot of teaching time. We have a lot of labs because we've got the coloring book, we've got dissections and all that stuff, so we don't use the microscopes. Instead, if you go to your assignment page, look on the assignment that says Experiment 2.1. I have listed for you websites that have pictures of what the lab is asking for. Okay? So what I want you to do is go to those websites. I gave the links for them. You need to follow the lab, look at the different microscope sizing, the magnifications, look at the different magnifications, and then I want you to draw those as the book instructs. So if the book says draw 6, you're going to draw 6. If it says draw 2, you're going to draw 2. So please don't email me and say, how many am I supposed to draw? Because the book tells you how many to draw, okay? Follow the instructions. The assignment page, in the notes, there are all the links that you need. Everything is self-explanatory. I loaded it up again yesterday, so you have it all. On page 47, you will see that you need to go back and finish page, it says 23, but it's really 25. Finish that coloring page, and then you'll do on your own 2.3 and 2.4. Now, let's talk about glandular epithelium. Go ahead and shoot to page 48, stay there and listen. In this section, you're going to learn what a gland is and how it works. And as you study the epithelial tissue found inside of glands, there are two types of glands, exocrine and endocrine. What does exo mean? Exo means out. Remember, like an exoskeleton is a skeleton on the outside. This is exocrine. C-R-I-N-E means secretes. Anytime you see the term crine, it means glands. Okay? So exocrine means that it secretes out. And if you look at the definition on page 44, it says glands that secrete substances outward through a duct. Now, that is on your test as well, where you have to match that up. You'll need to know that definition. Endo means in. Crine means secretes. So guess what? It secretes in. Ductless, no ducts, ductless glands that secrete hormones into the bloodstream. So endocrine goes to the bloodstream. Exocrine goes out through a duct. Okay? Now meet me on page 48 again. We are going to look at different types of these glands. You've got some pictures up at the top, and I'm going to walk you through, okay? Now, notice that these are exocrine glands. See how they have a duct at the top, a little hole that something gets squirted out, okay? These have a secretory portion. That means it squirts stuff out. It secretes stuff. Oh, I kept hearing it sounded like a thermostat, like my stove, but I've got the crock pot going. Okay, they all have a duct. Exocrine glands all have a duct. Note that regardless of the shape, they all have secretory regions and ducts through which the chemicals travel. So, let's see, 1, 2, third paragraph, page 48. Follow with me. Some exocrine glands, such as mammary glands, secrete to a surface on the outside of the body. In case of a mammary gland, milk is secreted onto the surface of the skin so an infant can ingest it, so that they can eat. They drink the milk. Other endocrine glands, like the ones in the stomach, secrete to the surface inside the body. For example, stomach glands secrete onto the surface inside the stomach so that their secreted chemicals can be used in digesting. So inside the stomach, it's secreting gastric juices to help break down those enzymes and acids. So, blah, 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 blah. There are 3 ways that an exocrine gland can secrete chemicals, and that provides a means by which we can classify these exocrine glands. The 3 names I'm going to give you have to do with exocrine glands. Now, the first is called merocrine. Now, remember, crine means secrete. Mero means a small part. It is exocrine glands that secrete without losing their cellular material. That means a small part of its cellular material may escape, but it doesn't break down, okay? Next is an apocrine gland. Apo means tip. So it loses the tip of the cellular function on each of those cells. Then you have halocrine. Halo means whole. So that means that the inside of that gland breaks down and secretes out. Okay, so I'm still looking. Okay, on the right-hand side of the page. The right-hand side of the page, no cellular material is secreted. This is a merocrine gland. This is like a sweat gland. It pushes out sweat, but the gland itself stays intact. It'll fill up again, okay, but it'll just squirt out the sweat, okay? Next is your apocrine. Look how it takes off the tip of those little cells on the inside of that gland. A good example of this is mammary glands or mother's milk. Part of the mother's cellular tissue comes out in the milk, and it helps nourish her babies. That's precious. Let's see, it puts out cellular material like cytoplasm in its secretions. The holocrine gland, this is like a sebaceous gland, a zit. So you've got this little gland, it fills up with oil from your skin, soap, bacteria, and it gets infected. And when all that stuff makes its little soup of goo inside of these cells, the whole thing goes, just pop it, and you see what comes out. The whole cell comes out. And you know that the whole gland breaks down because when you run your finger across a zit, there's a bump. It's collecting all of that stuff in the gland. And then, boom, poof, it pops and it goes flat again, hopefully. So, apocrine glands, let me back up. Merocrine means a little part is secreted. Apocrine, the definition says it's cytoplasm is part of the secretion. Halocrine releases the entire cell into the duct. Now let's leave the exocrine glands for a minute and turn our attention to endocrine. If I could speak English today, that would help a lot. Endocrine glands. So, remember, endocrine glands have no ducts. They release directly into the bloodstream. They inject into the bloodstream. So, an endocrine gland, on the bottom of page 49, last paragraph, endocrine gland cells are packed close to cells. That is typical of epithelial tissue altogether. The big difference between endocrine and exocrine is that there are no ducts in endocrine glands. Instead, there are just tiny blood vessels called capillaries that run through the cells. Now, let's look at this picture of exocrine and endocrine glands in the pancreas. On the left-hand side, the exocrine glands in the pancreas secrete insulin into the bloodstream to control glucose levels in the blood. There are cells inside of these endocrine glands. Off to the side, you can see the little capillaries. The capillaries are what does the little exchange with the blood. Then you also have secretory portion of an exocrine gland. The exocrine gland around the pancreas secretes enzymes into these ducts and into the small intestine for digestion. So the pancreas puts out these enzymes and chemicals into your intestine so that it can start breaking down sugars, complex carbohydrates. Typically, some form of insulin will be injected here. So that's a good thing to know. All right, the bottom of your page 50, a review of glands discussed in this section can be found on page 27. That is really 29 in your coloring book. And then you've got 2 more on your own. So it has been 51 fabulous minutes, and you still have about an hour left in the class. So here's what I want you to do for the second hour, okay? I want you to go ahead and start with your reading. Start with your reading on page 36, and then go all the way through. You can't do your coloring book because I'm sure you don't have it with you, and I'm not going to send you a message to bring it because you just don't need to. Do that at home. But go ahead and start doing your on your owns, all right? Go ahead and do your on your owns. Next, keep going because you've got a big section full of lab there that you're not going to be able to do either until you get home. So, and you should have your lab sheets in your notebook. You should have lab sheets for this lab. It is 2.1, I think. I'm looking. Yes, it's experiment 2.1. You should have that in your notebook that I gave you. So do that when you get home. So for the rest of the remainder of the class time, 1, start reading. 2, work on your owns. 3, be quiet. We got classes all around us this year, and you all could be very disturbing to them, and we do not want to do that. So be quiet. Once you're finished, close your book. Chat with your neighbor if they're finished, but keep it down, okay? Be kind to Mrs. Frost. She's really sweet and really cute, and we want to be sweet to her because nobody likes okay. There's nobody who wants to sub for science, high school sciences. Nobody. And she's generously traded out with me so that she was out last week. So please be kind to her because she does not want to be doing this today. Nobody wants to be up at 8:30 subbing somebody else's class. So be sweet to her, okay? And I think that's it. I mean, really, that's all your homework for the week. Work on that lab. Work on your owns and read the parts in the video that say this is important. It's important. I'm going to go ahead and upload this video to YouTube, and I will post a link on today's date on your calendar. So if for some reason somebody is out sick or they couldn't come today, they can still watch the video. So that's it. I hope y'all have a great week, and maybe you can get most of your work done today. All you'll have to do at home is your coloring book and your lab. That's it for the whole week, if you can get the rest of this done today. So take your time. You've got an hour. Be quiet. Be quiet. And I'll see y'all next week.